Hello, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So I have put together this particular video is set aside for the LAUSD drama. And so being it shows that I know a lot about education, or I have some expertise, let's say that. I say I know a lot about because I've invested many years in the field of education, but I know quite a bit. Some of the things that some of these parents and some of these people that aren't really aware of that happens behind the scenes. And so if you haven't understood yet, or you hadn't looked at news because you're one of these people who don't want to look at the news because there's so much going on, or you're living under a rock, I'm here to inform you that LAUSD may, it's not for sure just yet, they may have a major strike with teachers walking out. And I'll say this, much of it has to do with pay. Much of it has to do with pay. And this has been an ongoing battle. And so there are many articles that talk about this. And so today is Wednesday, and they're supposed to have a bargaining meeting happening today having to do with negotiations on whether to, try to resolve some of the issues with pay, classroom sizes, and some of the other list of issues that have gone on with LA Unified. Now, there are, however, some other issues that have gone on in other areas dealing with teachers. And so I've talked about that off and on again. And some incidences happen in California, and some incidences happen outside of California. And this particular incident was a really sad incident here, an alarming incident that may not sit well with plenty of parents. So this is a substitute teacher accused of performing sex acts on himself while the students were in the classroom. Okay, and this is him pictured here. Okay, so this is out of the National. Let's see what site. It says News 104.5 WOKV. And I just thought that I would bring these incidences out to you so that you can see that a lot goes on that parents wouldn't believe, and that some people wouldn't believe, that are going on in these schools. So Tracy J. Abraham of Cincinnati was charged with public indecency, a first-degree misdemeanor. He's a substitute teacher that was accused of performing sex acts on himself while he was in the classroom. And here it says he was in the classroom while students were there. Okay, and this is him pictured here. There's a video attached to it. And so I'm just going to read this. And I'm trying to get through everything as much as possible. And then if I have time, I'll go back to some of the videos. So, a Fairfield School resource officer at Creekside Middle School on Niles Road received several complaints that a substitute teacher was observed performing the act. No students were physically involved in this act, officials said. The school officer removed the teacher from the room. Abraham was booked and arraigned in the Fairfield Municipal Court on Tuesday afternoon. According to the court records, Abraham's case was continued to 8:30 a.m. January 15th in Municipal Court. Municipal Court Judge Joyce Campbell released Abraham on his own recognizance in order to stay away from all locations where there are children under 18. Fairfield City said that students reported suspicious behavior by Abraham taking place behind the teacher's desk. So it goes on to say that once the administration at the Creekside Middle School was made aware of this behavior, the school resource officer immediately removed the substitute teacher from the classroom and the building. Said that the school spokeswoman, Gina Gentry Fletcher, at this time, the school district is not aware of the substitute teacher having physical contact with any of the students. So in addition, we are not aware of any students being exposed to any nudity. Creekside Middle School administrators have attempted to contact parents and guardians of every student who was in Abraham's class. Also, the district reported the incident to the Ohio Department of Education. So providing a safe, secure, and positive learning environment for our students and staff has always been and will continue to be our most important priority. This was said by Gentry Fletcher. Chris Brown, superintendent of the Butler County Educational Service Center, the organization that handles the hiring and the scheduling of substitute teachers in Butler County school systems, told the Journal News Abraham had passed Bureau of Criminal Investigations and Federal Bureau of Investigations, which is FBI background checks, when hired in 2012. So he also went through a background check in 2017, and there has been nothing in his background. Brown has said this. So Brown said Abraham also has worked as a substitute teacher in other Butler and Warren County school systems, but was out of the office at the time and unable to access a list of the districts. So Lakota school officials said Abraham has on occasion worked as a substitute teacher in some of his schools, but they have no record of any complaint against him. So here he is pictured right here. Substitute teacher accused of performing sex acts on himself in the classroom.
With more reporters and more communities, News Center 7 is committed to local news in a way you won't find on any other station.
News Center 7 brings you more Miami Valley stories than you will see anywhere else. That's our commitment to you.
Coverage you can count on every day.
Okay, so there you have it. That's story number one. And I hate to say this, but there is another story that is on the news. And this involves special ed. Teacher caught on video dragging student with autism down the hallway. And there's other multiple articles. WSAV TV and Fox8.com. Teacher fired, facing charges for dragging autistic student down the hallway. Teacher charged with assault after video shows her dragging boy with autism through the hallway. And so this is pretty explosive to some people. When they see things like this, it upsets a lot of parents because you trust that your kids are in a safe environment. However, you don't know who the instructors are. You don't know who these people that they're hiring as teachers. Even if they're credentialed, you don't know who these people really are. Even if they don't find anything in their background check to indicate that they're harmful towards children, you still don't know what these people are capable of doing. Of course, we're learning, but we're learning the hard way. So after this video, without further ado, this is about a Kentucky teacher caught on video dragging a student with autism down the hallway, and it's a special ed student, of course, in special ed class. And so I'm going to turn the sound up.
The elementary school teacher from Eastern Kentucky seen in this security camera video dragging a child with special needs up and down a hallway will appear in court tomorrow.
No. Get out. No. Get out. No.
Police have charged Trina Abrams with assault in the 4th degree. A former student, 9-year-old Alan Jackson, was diagnosed with autism and doesn't speak very well. His mother saw this. She says it broke her heart.
I saw all of his new classmates and his friends along the wall, watching him being dragged down the hallway.
She posted the video on her Facebook page looking for justice.
I feel like I needed to go to social media for my child to have a voice. I was horrified. When I saw it, I couldn't believe that she would drag him.
This happened in October, and in a statement, the Greenup County School District says the student was assessed by the school nurse and the teacher was removed from the school. The child was new to this school, and the parents don't feel this was discipline. The state will decide if the teacher keeps her license. David? All right, Steve, thank you.
So that is another commercial. It's unrelated to the article. So there you have it. Kentucky teacher is facing criminal charges after a video was revealed showing this teacher dragging a student diagnosed with autism down the school hallway. The incident occurred October 24th at Wortland Elementary School in the Greenup County. And the video was posted on Facebook by the child's mother. Her name is Angel Nelson. In the video, a woman police identified Trina Abrams can be seen dragging the 9-year-old boy, Alan Jackson, out of the classroom next to where children were lined up against a wall and pulling the student by his wrist down the hall. At one point, Abrams can be seen stopping and attempting to pull Alan to his feet before continuing to drag him while he is on his knees into another classroom. So here she is pictured here. It's a surveillance video posted to Facebook by Angela Nelson. Shows her son, Alan, 9 years old. He is being dragged through the hall at the school in front of other children. So Angela Nelson, or Angel Nelson, told ABC News that Alan had been diagnosed with autism, depression, anxiety, ADHD, and PTSD. And Abrams was his resource teacher. So that's like a resource specialist teacher that's in special education. So Nelson said that the other children were taken out of the classroom where her son was having an outburst, and Abrams had allegedly grabbed her son's wrist and twisted them and pulled him out of the chair before dragging him down the hallway. So this is her pictured here dragging him. And you can see to my right, you can see her continuously dragging him down the hall by the wrist. And so she claims it broke my heart when I saw the video and I saw all of his new classmates and his friends along the wall watching him being dragged down the hallway. Angel Nelson, the mother, said in an interview with ABC affiliates. And so Nelson told ABC News that she took her son out of the school for a few days following the incident before ultimately transferring him to another school. She said that her son's wrist was sprained after he was dragged and that he was still emotionally traumatized by the incident. So here's the little boy pictured here. Okay, so the Greenup County School District said in a statement that after the incident that the parent was contacted immediately and the student was assessed by the school nurse and referred to an outside medical evaluation. So the district also confirmed in the statement that Abrams had been removed when the investigation had began. And so that Child Protective Services in the Kentucky Education Standard Board had both been contacted as well. And so David Borman with Kentucky State Police Post 14 told ABC News that Abrams had been charged with assault in the 4th degree, victim under 12 years old, and was given a citation to appear in court. And so Borman confirmed Abrams had been fired by the school and was due in court on Wednesday morning. So Abrams did not return ABC News request for comment, and she has not yet appeared in court for the incident. So Nelson told ABC News that she wanted more cameras in the school, noting that the camera in the room where Allen was ultimately was taken was facing a wall, okay, and did not show what happened in the classroom. Now I want to stop there. LAUSD does not have cameras in the classroom, and so a lot of the same type of stuff. I'm just going to be honest with you. Some of these things end up happening in LAUSD as well, but some schools have cameras in the hallways and some don't. Some schools, most schools, don't have cameras in the classroom. So a lot of things that happen in the classroom you will not see. And a lot of the instructors, like little aid people, are told not to say anything, that they are threatened that they are going to be subpoenaed in court if they tell what the teachers are doing. That they'll lose their job and they'll be subpoenaed in court and they could be fired and they'll never work at any other school again, as if you're the bad person. Now I want to leave that with you so you can understand where I'm coming from. It gives you an idea of what some of the things that some of us people that have worked in some of these schools have experienced. Okay? Now that's a heavy pill to swallow, but it's the truth. And so had this lady not have come out of the classroom where the cameras are in the hallway, you would not have seen this, and it would have went on in the classroom just as well. And anybody that was working in that classroom with that teacher would have been threatened not to tell, that they would lose their job and that they would no longer be able to work for any school district ever again. And so this is the type of tactics that some of these schools districts will use. Some of them have done that. So I'm not going to sugarcoat none of this. So Nelson told ABC News she wanted more cameras in the school, noting that the camera in the room where Allen was ultimately was facing a wall. And that's not by accident. It faced a wall because they're doing things to the kids in these classrooms. There's some things that have been done to some of the LAUSD students in the classroom, and there's no cameras. That's the only reason why some of these kids, they tell the kids they don't want them to have their cell phones, because the cell phones have cameras so you can actually see what some of the teachers are doing. But the teachers don't want the cell phones on, and they don't want you to take pictures, and they don't want you to record some of the things that they're saying in these classrooms. So Angela and Alan's stepfather, Caleb, also encouraged parents to look out for their children. Yes, you should. I'm agreeing with that. You should. And it's not just in Kentucky. It's not just in this school district right here. It's not just in Ohio. It's everywhere. Okay? This boy did not have to be treated like this. But let me tell you something. I'm just going to be honest with you. I hate to alarm you, but he's not the only kid that's been treated like this. Okay, moving along. Let's go to the next story. Okay. LAUSD board eases volunteer restrictions in the event of a strike. So I've told you there's a strike that could possibly take place as soon as Thursday, maybe as soon as today. So LAUSD board eases volunteer restrictions in the event of a strike. Okay. Los Angeles. Some parents were outraged behind this. Okay. Now, I want to stop for a minute. We did a big march called the March of Our Lives, and marching for, school nonviolence and no guns in the school. And then there was a host of articles talking about some school districts were having teachers armed with guns. Mind you, you see what kind of teachers that they have in these classrooms. Can you imagine these teachers armed with guns? The other thing is I want to add more to this. So some parents were outraged on Tuesday after the board of the LAUSD, or Unified School District, Tuesday approved a proposal that eases security checks. Do you think that this is a time that we should ease security checks? Okay. So the security checks are eased for volunteers, y'all. ahead of the imminent teacher strike. So that means, what that means is your baby could be in a classroom with somebody that's volunteering, and the security check is eased so that they don't really do a thorough background check. Of course, they've done thorough background checks of those two teachers that I showed you, but they didn't find anything on them, but look what they did in the classroom. Okay? Suppose they have a volunteer that's not getting paid, somebody from, out of the neighborhood that's not getting paid, that volunteers at your school, your baby's school, and they're around your baby. So the board passes a proposal that eases background check requirements for some parent volunteers to anticipation in the need that it would be help in the event of a strike. If the teachers strike, they're scheduled to begin on Thursday. If the teachers union and the district doesn't reach the 11th hour deal. Okay? So the volunteers will not need to pass a full federal background check, but they will, however, need to be checked against the national database for sex offenders. So we have talked about guns in the school and strangers coming up on campus and people that keep the doors unlocked and not having the kids safe and the staff safe. Okay, supposing they let one of these volunteers on the campus and the volunteer has a history, you know, with terrorism. They wouldn't necessarily catch that if they didn't actually perform any terroristic acts yet, unless they're exposed in an environment where they can have free range access to a school to happen to volunteer at your baby's school. Okay? As long as they don't have no sex offense and they're not in the database. Okay? But, however, they could come on that campus and pretend or pose as if they want to help during the teacher strike. I'm just throwing that out there. Dozens of parents showed up at LA Unified headquarters demanding answers regarding who will be supervising their children during this strike. So the school district has failed. They have a specific obligation to the children and they failed it. Parent Carl Peterson told CBS 2 they've had what they've had what is it 2 years, he says, now in a contract negotiation, and they don't want to settle. Okay, so that's about the strike. LAUSD students, now this is something else that could be happening, you all. So before I go on with the rest of this article, I'm going to go into it, that all LAUSD students may be getting free rides on the metro buses and the trains during the strike, if it actually happens. So following 20 months of unsuccessful negotiations, 30,000 members of the UTLA, which is United Teachers Union of Los Angeles, will walk off the job, the first such strike in 30 years for the second largest school district in the nation, serving 600,000 students. An issue between the two sides has been pay, classroom sizes, and hiring more staff and support, such as nurses, counselors, and librarians. Now, I will tell you this. I've seen some schools where they don't have any librarian. Almost most of the school year, or half the school year, is over with, and there's no librarian. And I will admittedly say this. There have been some schools where they have a nurse that'll come on one or 2 days out of a week, or they'll have a traveling nurse, a couple of traveling nurses that'll go from school to school because they have a shortage of those counselors and nurses. And then there's some schools that don't have any counselor at all. They hire somebody on the outside to come in and work with the kids. And then the shortage of staff, I will admit to say that there were plenty of staff a few years ago, and all of a sudden they downsized because they claimed that there was a budget crisis in some of the school districts. That is why teachers are upset, because they say, wait a minute, budget crisis, we're not getting paid. We're not even being paid. Some teachers have been pink slipped. Some teachers are getting their hours cut, or they're not being hired. They're not being kept on. And let me go a little step further too. There's racism going on in some of these school districts. There's some school districts with racism going on. Let's not sugarcoat this. There's some districts looking out the staff, the makeup of the staff. There's not enough diversity, and they only want to hire certain people to be teachers and head staff, and then all the little aides. You might can count on one hand how many African American aides there are and how many black people staff, and they're always custodians and little aides. They like to keep the little black people in check. Everything you do, you can get fired. But when these people come in, you see some of the teachers that are in charge of things. They always hire them, and you find them doing sex acts on the kids, or they doing something they ain't supposed to be doing. You know, or they doing something like dragging them or whatever. You know, and so anyway, let me go on. It says at the issue here, it says between the two sides has been paid classroom sizes and hiring more support staff, such as nurses, counselors, and librarians, which is true. So LAUSD has offered 6% pay hike retroactive to July 1st of 2016, while United Teachers LA is demanding a 6.5% salary increase. They always had an issue with salary. Every time they have a meeting, they say they have a budget crisis or they can't pay certain people, they can't do certain things. And people that are at the bottom that have the little aid jobs, or they have the little teaching on the yard, or they little yard staff, their hours are cut or they get threatened. If you say too much, you get threatened that you're going to get fired. And that's another way for them to downsize so they won't have to pay anymore people. So UTLA President Alex Caputo Pearl, okay, it goes on talking about him, but it says negotiations also hinge on the debate between public schools and privatizing schools through charters, which there are a lot of them in LA that are cropping up everywhere. So the union wants to ensure privatization doesn't cut public school funding. So UTLA President Alex Caputo Pearl told reporters that another bargaining section is scheduled, and that's today on Wednesday. The two sides could not meet on Tuesday because UTLA leaders had to be in court, okay, over issues of whether the union provided LAUSD legally required 10-day notice that its members would stop working under the existing contract. So the union goal is to preempt the district from going to court on the same issue after a strike begins. The LAUSD, or Los Angeles Times, reported about LAUSD. So if that occurred, a judge could shut down the strike for several days, dampening the momentum of it. So that's what they're hoping, is to send people to court so that they can stop the strike. Okay, this is always overpay, and it'll always be overpay. And so the superintendent, he was on the news yesterday saying that it didn't have anything to do with hoarding money. But many employees have heard these meetings before, that we have a crisis, we have a budget problem, and we have this, and we can't do that, and we can't do this. And so a lot of these teachers, as the pay increases for like minimum wage, teachers' pay doesn't increase necessarily. So it doesn't affect the school districts, and they keep it like that. And so people want answers. So at Tuesday's protest, parent Joanna Belson told CBS 2 unmanageable class sizes and understaffing have been an issue for as long as her fourth and sixth graders have been in school. So I support the strike because it's important to me and my family that my kids get the proper education, Belson said. So I'm sick and tired of my kid only having an art class half of the school year, having a gym teacher only if given additional funds to pay for it. Okay, so I will comment on that. There are some classrooms that won't get any exercise. They don't do gym. It's only certain kids that are funded, or they have a need that for the exercise. The only exercise those kids are getting is recess, and recess is very short. And so Belson added that she and many other parents are standing in solidarity with teachers. They're fighting for our kids, okay? They are fighting for the kids, Belson said, and they are demanding nurses every day and not on just Tuesday only, and counselors every day. So we have an epidemic issue with our children in this society today, and they need counseling. Of course, because you heard what has happened in some of these schools where the kids come depressed. They have issues that happen outside of the schools, and they are not given counselors or nurses, or they're not given the proper staffing in these classrooms. Now, some of the schools have hired people from the outside. That's got to be more expensive than just hiring from within or hiring people that are coming in to work for the district. But a lot of people leave because of the treatment from administrative offices and staff and then other fellow teachers. Can you imagine when I had told you about this incident of the Kentucky teacher that was dragging the kid down the hallway? Just think how she would be to work with. There are some teachers that some of the aides and some of the people that work with, they never fire them. They never catch them. They never get caught because they're not on camera to get caught. She just happened to get caught because the camera caught her. I will tell you this, there are some teachers that they do the same thing to children, and they also do racism to some of the little black aides. And people can't talk for themselves because they're threatened and they're told to be quiet, that they'll be subpoenaed in court if they say too much. And so I know that for firsthand experience, and I will say that. So LAUSD students may ride buses and trains free, okay, if a strike does happen. So LAUSD students to get free rides on the metro buses and trains during the teacher strike. And this is by CBS News and KTLA as well. Okay? And you also, there's an extension. You might get free rides to parks and libraries because of the teacher strike and what's been happening in these school districts. And I've been talking about it for many, many months now. And I'm thinking that maybe it's starting to get through to some people. LAUSD teachers strike. If they strike, Metro will offer students free rides to parks and libraries. Also, it's between the hours of, when I was looking at one article, it said the hours of 5 a.m. in the morning to 7 o'clock in the evening. So they may extend it. Okay. All right. So with a possible teachers LAUSD strike looming for the LA Unified School District this week, Metro announced on Tuesday that it will offer students free rides in case of the union organized protest if it actually happens. So more than 30,000 educators and other staff members representing UTLA, which is United Teachers of Los Angeles, plan to strike Thursday after months of failed negotiations between the union and LA Unified over salaries, increased class sizes, and staffing shortages. LAUSD is the country's second largest school district with more than 600,000 students. Supervisors and Metro Board Chair Sheila Kell said in a statement, so at Metro, we want to help those kids who may be staying at home from school because of the strike find constructive and educational ways to spend their time. Free Metro access will help make it easier for students and their families to get to parks, museums, libraries, and other facilities. So students who show their ID can get a free fares on the Metro between the hours of 5 a.m. in the morning to 7 p.m. in the evening, each day of the strike. So bus operators will let students board the buses for free, and enforcement officers will let them ride without fares on the Gold, Blue Line, Green Line, and the Expo Light Rail lines. TAP personnel will let students in free of charge on the Red and the Purple lines. UTLA has deemed the school's district offers inadequate, saying its members have been working without a contract for nearly 1 year. Even with $1.86 billion in reserves, have the money to improve our schools, the group said it in a statement. LA Mayor Eric Garcetti said free fares on the Metro can help ease the burden on students and parents affected by this strike. So free rides on the Metro mean that families will have one less thing to worry about while both parties work towards the agreement. This is from Mayor Garcetti. Okay, So I just want you to know that it's not something I made up. This is real. That the kids during the strike, if it does actually happen, the kids will be allowed to have free rides. You can look back over this video to see the duration if you want to see this article so you can read it for yourself to understand what days, when. It's only during the strike and it's only on certain lines. And so you know what is going on. And during the hours of 5 a.m. to 7 in the evening each day, when the strike is happening, if it happens, the kids will get free fare, but they have to show their student IDs. Okay? So anyway, with that being said, what do you think about all of these things that are now cropping up? And you will see more stories like this, unfortunately. You will see more stories like this, unfortunately. And I would implore some of you parents, some of you people, to start looking at some of these articles about the school districts and what is going on in these school districts, because a lot is not being said about what's happening in these school districts with some of the substitute teachers and with some of the actual credentialed teachers that they have hired at these schools. They have done what they say a thorough background check, but you still don't know who's working with your babies. And now that they've called themselves easing up the restrictions during the strike, that they may actually incorporate volunteers coming in to the schools with your baby. And here you got people who were actually credentialed and they have no history of any violence, but they have done these things in the classroom. They've had to get rid of some people that have performed sex acts in front of the children, or they've done suspicious behavior. So how do you feel about people like that that could possibly come in the classroom? They may not even have prior history because they hadn't been caught. So anyway, these are a lot of things that are up for discussion and debate. It's very highly publicized about this teacher strike. So be on the lookout on the news. If you're a person that is trying to stay away from the news, now's the time to start looking at it because it involves your babies. So anyway, with that being said, I'm going to let this video go, and thanks for listening.